5 teenagers drive into a valley looking for a missing girl and walk straight into a nightmare they cannot escape. A masked killer, creatures that used to be human, a time loop that resets every single time they die, and a brilliant psychologist who designed every single second of their suffering. This isn't a haunted house. This isn't a ghost story. This is a psychological experiment, and they are the test subjects. The question isn't whether they can fight back. The question is, can they survive long enough to see the morning?
The story kicks off with a girl running for her life. We don't know what she's running from. A thief, a maniac, some kind of monster, it's not clear, but the terror on her face tells you everything. She looks like she genuinely believes she's got seconds left to live. She crawls out through a hidden tunnel and desperately tries to get away. Then the story shifts gears and drops us in with 5 teenagers: Clover, Max, Megan, Nina, and Eb. These guys are on a mission. Clover's older sister has been missing for 2 weeks. No word, no contact, nothing. And they're out here trying to find her. Turns out that girl we saw sprinting for her life at the very beginning, that was Clover's sister, Melanie. That's why Clover refused to just sit at home and wait. The moment they roll into the area, Clover pulls up the last video recording Melanie ever sent. She studies the background carefully, and it's obvious. Melanie made that call from somewhere right around here. So Clover locks in and decides she's going straight to the source. She walks into a local shop, plays it cool, acts like she just popped in for a cold, sweet iced tea. But almost immediately, she pulls out Melanie's photo and asks the shop owner, a guy named Hill, if he's ever seen her around. Hill shrugs it off, says too many people come through for him to keep track of faces. But then Hill adds something that stops Clover cold. She's not the first person who's walked in asking about someone who went missing. Others have come before her with the exact same questions. And then Hill hits her with a warning. Up on the hill, he says, there's a place called Glore Valley. Word is, anyone who stops there never comes back. His advice? Look for Melanie somewhere else, anywhere else. Clover doesn't listen. She and her crew head straight for Glore Valley. On the way up, tensions start bubbling. Not everyone is down with Clover's call, and the arguing gets heated. Then one of them drops the news that makes everything worse. They've gone off course. They're lost. So they push forward. That's when they run into something genuinely wild, a weather anomaly called a rain boundary. Rain is falling in a perfectly straight line. One side is completely soaked. The other side is bone dry. Like someone drew a curtain between 2 worlds. Everyone loses it for a second, stunned by how bizarre it looks, and they stop to capture the moment. And that's exactly the place Hill warned them about. The stop. The place people don't come back from. The whole area is dead silent. No signs of life anywhere. Once the rain eases up, they figure let's go inside the lodge. Maybe whoever runs this place knows something useful. They walk in. Nobody's there. But Nina notices something immediately feels off. Everything is spotless, like someone maintains this place daily. It's almost too neat. There's an old hourglass sitting out, still in perfect working condition. The lights are still on. And there's a guest book on the counter, completely blank. Nina figures might as well sign in, and fills out an entry. Meanwhile, Megan really needs to use the bathroom, and rushes off. But when she gets there, there's no running water. Not a drop. On the other side of the lodge, Eb is doing his thing, snapping photos of all the antique stuff inside, maybe putting together a little cinematic reel like he always does. When he wanders into one of the back rooms, he spots a wall covered in old clippings, photographs, newspaper cutouts. He looks closer. Every single photo is of someone who went missing. Why are these displayed in a public lodge? Who put them there? He can't figure it out. But here's the thing that really floors him. Right there in the middle of all those missing persons photos is a photo of Melanie, Clover's sister. Clover herself is still outside, taking in the surroundings. Then suddenly she hears something, a faint voice, soft and sad, almost like it belongs to Melanie. And in the distance, a shadowy figure disappears into the dark. Clover takes off running after it. But when she gets there, nothing. Max appears and pulls her back inside before she can chase it any further. That night is deeply unsettling. Nina walks back over to the guest book and nearly jumps out of her skin. Melanie's name is now written in it. No one else is in that lodge. Nina was the only one who touched that book. A little later, Eb comes back and shows Nina and Megan what he found on the wall. They all study the photos closely and notice something deeply disturbing. None of the missing persons have any names, phone numbers, or addresses listed. Nothing you could use to contact anyone. No explanation for why these photos exist here. No point of contact. Just faces. Then the hourglass, the one that had been sitting still, suddenly starts moving again, like an invisible hand flipped it back over. Then Eb's car disappears from the parking lot. They find it parked on the other side of the rain boundary, headlights on, just sitting there, like someone moved it on purpose. Is somebody messing with them? Did some stranger pass through? Nobody can figure it out. The driver fires up the ignition, and they all decide to just get back inside. No signal on any of their phones. Not a single bar. No way to call for help. Eb and Nina post up by the window to keep watch. Clover and the others head off to search for a landline. Maybe something old school still works in this place. They head down to the basement. It's dark and creepy. Max immediately notices something wrong. There's a window down here, in a basement. That doesn't make any sense. Clover finds a telephone and tries 911 right away. Dead. Megan spots an old radio that's somehow still functioning, and she tries over and over to call for help. But every single time, all she gets back is static and noise. Back upstairs, Eb and Nina get distracted by a strange sound coming from the kitchen. Nina is told to keep an eye on the car while Eb goes to check it out. What happens next is brutal. Nina turns around, and Eb is dead. A man in a mask steps out of the shadows and kills Nina too. The screams bring Max sprinting upstairs. He takes one look at the situation, races back down to the basement, and tells Clover and Megan to hide. Now. Because the masked man now knows they're in the basement. Max tries to fight him, and it costs him his life. Then Megan gets grabbed. The masked man picks her up and just slams her around the room over and over until she can barely move. Clover watches from a corner, frozen, not breathing, and then watches in pure horror as the man crushes Megan's skull and kills her. Clover summons everything she has left and drives a kitchen knife straight into the man's back. He doesn't even go down. Clover bolts straight into the woods. Then, something impossible happens. The hourglass that had stopped starts spinning again. From the very beginning, and just like that, Clover is alive again. All of them are alive again, like they just arrived. At first Clover thinks it was a nightmare. Then Nina checks the guest book. Her name is in there twice. She only wrote it once. Before they can even process what just happened, Megan suddenly gets possessed and collapses to the floor. And then someone starts pounding on the front door from outside, trying to force their way in. Clover goes to check. No one's there. And then, out of nowhere, an entire village appears right in front of the lodge, fully materialized where there was nothing before. Then, Clover is somewhere else. She wakes up alone inside an empty house in this village. Creepy marionette pieces are scattered all over the floor. An old woman sits in the corner, completely silent, ignoring everything Clover says. Clover decides she has to get out, and grabs the door. It won't budge. She spins around, and the old woman lurches forward and whispers, "There is only one way out of here. Survive until morning." Cut to Eb and Nina back at the lodge. They spot a car parked out front, and figure this is their shot to escape. Before they can move an inch, another psychopath appears and kills them both right there. Meanwhile, Max goes looking for Clover, and finds something horrifying. Her body has turned to ash. But Max doesn't stop. He pushes all the way up to the top floor of the mansion, finds nothing, turns to leave, and the hourglass flips again. Everyone comes back. Again. Nina stares at the guest book. Another new entry. Megan's body is visibly deteriorating. She's getting weaker, like she's been starved. The same goes for the rest of them. No food, no clean water, and they've been trapped here through multiple loops now. Their bodies are giving out. Then Eb, nearly dying of thirst, finds a faucet and drinks from it without thinking. The others are just as desperate, and one by one, they drink too. Then Clover tells them what the old woman told her. They put it all together. They're stuck in a time loop. The same night keeps resetting, and the only way to break it is to make it to sunrise. But almost immediately after that conclusion, Eb starts coughing violently, and then his body just explodes. Nina goes the same way right after. Body parts everywhere. Megan looks at the chaos and realizes, the water. It must have been poisoned. And she's right, because then her legs blow apart, then her head, and then her entire body just shatters, right in front of Clover and Max. Clover decides, enough. They need a real plan. They need to get out of this place. And honestly, at this point, they've died so many times that the fear has started to go numb. The horror doesn't hit the same way anymore. They're almost desensitized to it. Now Clover shifts into full detective mode. She digs through old files and paperwork and finds a stack of business cards. The name on them, Dr. Hill. She stares at it. Then it clicks. This is the same guy from the gas station. That was him. Eb digs up some dark history on the town. 20 years ago, this area was the biggest gold mining hub in Pennsylvania. But in 1996, a catastrophic landslide ripped through everything because people had drilled way too deep. At least 10,100 people died. The entire town sank underground. After that disaster, this place became a dark, hollow shell, every corner soaked in tragedy. And that's exactly the location Dr. Hill had been given access to. He was considered a brilliant psychologist, assigned after the disaster to help the survivors process their deep-rooted trauma. What he actually developed was something twisted, a method where he linked a person's emotional trauma directly to this terrifying location, a way to weaponize grief. On the other side of the lodge, Max finds some old cassette tapes near a television and plays one. It's Dr. Hill's recordings. This man was running brutal experiments on survivors, trying to determine exactly how long a human being could last under the worst possible psychological and physical conditions. His theory was this: take a person with extreme trauma, extreme fear, anxiety, complete hopelessness, hunger, lock them in a confined space for long enough, and it breaks both their mind and body. One of the recordings shows a survivor who gradually transformed into something horrifying, a cannibalistic creature. Then the radio crackles. It's Dr. Hill's voice, live. He announces that all of them were deliberately selected as the next experimental subjects. Clover shuts all of that out. She says flat out, "I just want to find Melanie." Dr. Hill, calm as ever, tells her that if she comes alone, he'll take her to Melanie. Max and Megan immediately recognize it's a trap. They decide to trail Clover through the forest, while Eb and Nina stay inside. The second Eb and Nina are alone, the masked man appears and kills them both. In the forest, Max and Megan are pushing through the trees, calling out for Clover. They run into a creature and barely get away, but then Megan snags a broken piece of glass beneath her feet and falls right into it. A creature grabs her and drags her off into the darkness. Nobody knows where. Max is forced to let her go and keeps moving alone through this deadly forest. Deep in the woods, Max finally finds Clover, trapped inside an abandoned mine shaft. And that's when Melanie appears. But she's not Melanie anymore. She's completely transformed into a creature. Max just stands there staring, unable to process what he's looking at. Then he grabs Clover, pulls her out, and they duck behind a fence. They both know surviving tonight is impossible. Clover looks at Max and says, "Let's just die one more time. We'll try again tomorrow night." Back in the living room, everyone's alive again. The hourglass did its thing. Clover is practically singing at this point, almost hysterical, counting out loud how many nights have passed, how many times they've died and come back. They check the guest book. 13 days. This has been going on for 13 full days, and the evidence is written all over Eb. His body is visibly changing. Physical decay, mental deterioration. His mind is starting to crack. That's it. No more waiting. They need weapons. They need to fight. The creatures are closing in now. They can feel them, hear them breathing, feel their footsteps. Getting away from them is becoming nearly impossible. And now there's one more problem standing right in their path. The masked man is back, standing in the middle of the living room. Max turns to Clover and says, "Go find Dr. Hill. We'll handle this." Max and the others throw everything they have left into fighting the masked man, while Clover pushes forward. Then Clover comes face to face with Melanie one more time, the creature version. And Melanie launches at her without hesitation. Clover tries to reach her, tries to remind her, "I'm your sister." But Melanie doesn't stop. Clover pushes her hard, and Melanie falls onto a sharp rock. Melanie's body hits the ground. Clover stands there completely shattered, inside and out. But the danger doesn't pause. A creature locks on to Clover's scent. It feels completely hopeless now. Clover decides to go dead still, stay hidden, and wait it out until the creature moves on. While hiding, she catches a glimpse of something in a dark corner. A pile of bodies. She can't make out who they are. When she finally moves again, she finds it. Dr. Hill's secret hideout. The walls are covered in CCTV monitors, all of them tracking one thing and one thing only. Clover. Every step she's taken, every room she's been in, he's been watching the entire time. Then Dr. Hill walks in, coffee cup in hand. He says her name. One word. And everything becomes crystal clear. Clover has been the real target all along. This entire experiment was built around her. Dr. Hill knew everything about Melanie, her trauma, her emotional collapse, the grief she carried after losing Clover. Hill reverse-engineered that grief to engineer a plan. A full psychological strategy designed specifically to lure Clover to this exact location. As for her friends, they were collateral. They got pulled into Hill's psychological game by accident, and their presence was used to trigger their own self-destructive tendencies. The real reason Melanie and all those other missing people disappeared? They got completely swallowed by the illusion Hill constructed. And that illusion drove them to extreme starvation. And they died. The pile of bodies Clover saw earlier, that was the confirmation. Then Clover notices something. Water is dripping from the ceiling, and collecting on the table right next to Hill's coffee cup. And Clover remembers, this is the same poisoned water that blew them all apart. Without saying a single word, she quietly slides Hill's coffee cup aside, and lets the dripping poisoned water fill it up. When Dr. Hill goes to take a sip, it's over. The poison does its job. But Clover isn't done yet. Megan, the creature, dragged her into some kind of interrogation room. Clover gets her out. Then there's Max, being chased down by another creature. Clover gets to him too. All while the hourglass is running out. Then morning comes. Sunlight breaks through. The thick fog that's been choking this place begins to lift. And that's the signal. They made it. They actually survived the night. They broke out of the psychological trap Dr. Hill built. And now they stand as the only known survivors of his twisted experiment. The film closes on CCTV footage. After Hill is gone, a black van pulls up near the location. Like the people inside are thinking about stopping there. But they have no idea. No idea whatsoever. Because Dr. Hill is coming back, with an even more dangerous psychological game ready to go.